You know what's really funny? If you told me back in 2019 that there would be a time in the next 3 seasons when the Montreal Canadiens would acquire Kirby Dach, Sean Monahan, Evgeny Dadonov, and the first overall pick of that season, all within the span of a few weeks, only for this team to go out there and potentially be a bottom feeder first overall contending team once again the next season, I would have called you crazy. But that indeed is the timeline we live in. The Montreal Canadiens have acquired all of these names. They have Dadonov, who is a very good, talented hockey player. They have Kirby Dach, who has not gone out there and shown off as much as a lot of Blackhawks fans and NHL fans alike would have wanted to see out of him so far. And there is indeed that Sean Monahan, who is unfortunately on a much worse path than we thought he would be at this time in 2019, for example. Not to mention the first overall pick, too. That helps. But today I wanted to talk about Kirby Dach once again and go over why exactly it appears the Chicago Blackhawks traded him away in the first place. Now, let's go over the profile just to get things out of the way. I said 2019 specifically in our hypothetical example because 2019 is when Kirby Dach had been taken 3rd overall by the Chicago Blackhawks. He was a surprise pick to go 3rd. Some people said he probably should have gone somewhere outside the top 5. Others had him ranked as low as 11th overall. But lo and behold, he was taken 3rd overall. The Blackhawks liked that he was a big, strong center with a good stride, that had hands as soft as a pillow to dangle by players and make plays. He was a Ryan Getzlaf-type big dude who had himself a pretty good passing playmaking profile, similar to that of Ryan Getzlaf. Many people, myself included, kind of said that Kirby Dach had an elite ceiling at the NHL level, and if he was able to go out there and reach his absolute peak, he could be a guy that gets 80 to 90 points in a season, with 60 to 70 of those points per year being assists. He could just be an absolute tank on center, and it's why he was taken 3rd. Despite that, though, Kirby Dach just came off of a 26-point season in 70 games played. He's made the NHL ever since he was drafted in 2019, but he has not taken the steps necessary to go out there and actually solidify himself in that role. Now, we went over his prior point production and we said, hey, in 2020, 2021, even though Dach was sidelined for most of the year because he got injured at the World Juniors, he had 10 points in the 18 NHL games that he played, which is half a point a game. He was on pace for just over 40-something points on the full season. I get it, it's a small sample size, but still, you take the dubs when you see him, don't you? And so, the season that he had, this most recent season of 26 points in 70 games played, was a very big step back when it came to the overall point per game numbers. Whether or not he's going to go over to Montreal and improve that, who knows? We'll wait and see throughout the 2022-2023 season. But we had ourselves a radio hit done on TSN 690 by Marco D'Amico, going over some word as to why the Chicago Blackhawks might have traded Dach away in the first place. Now, a lot of us are already trying to formulate, okay, why the heck is it that Chicago is going out there and saying they want to rebuild, they want to get younger, but they're trading away Dach, they're trading away DeBrincat. Why Dach specifically? What is it about this guy that makes him so undesirable in their quote-unquote rebuild-on-the-fly process? Now, a lot of people went out there and said, hey, it's just because the guy has not been as good as they wanted him to be as early on, and they're starting to lose faith. They would rather hard reset and just go with a guy that they're more comfortable with because it's a new management, new regime, etc., etc. Just take the 13th overall pick or whatever it is and select Conor Geekie because, hey, you wanted a big playmaking forward from the WHL? I know Kirby Dach was that, but Conor Geekie is that too, and you're the guys who are taking him instead of the previous regime. So maybe that's why. Maybe they just really want to disconnect themselves from the vision the previous management had, and maybe they just don't really see Dach as a guy that can fit in their timeline as they want to get younger, and they would rather use an asset like Dach, who is 21 years old, and get even more younger pieces in the process. Well, this is what Marco D'Amico said on TSN 690 on why the Blackhawks moved Dach in the first place. Scotty Bowman told us that it really came down to face-offs, and Chicago wanted a complete roster reset. Now, the last part there makes sense as to what I was just kind of thinking about. Okay, roster reset, they want their own hand, they want their own guys, etc., whatever. But that first part, though, Scotty Bowman told us that it came down to the face-offs. Here's a tweet from Jay Fresh that kind of pokes a little bit of fun at the situation. This seems unlikely, but that would be pretty funny if they traded Dach because of his face-off percentage. Like, I mean, that's just kind of how the quote reads, is it not? I mean, You have Marco D'Amico, who went down there in the comments and started replying to people. Here's what Tyler said. He should get a shot at right wing. Kirby Dach should get. Easier to learn, and he can focus on his size to get pucks and drive the net. Marco D'Amico says, I would run a combo of Dach or Monahan and have him focus on winning strong side faceoffs first, and then progressively move him to take both sides on his own if he shows improvement. Jason Paul says, faceoffs? Yikes. D'Amico replies saying, yeah, that's why I suggested playing Dach with Monahan. Monahan takes left faceoffs while Dach takes right faceoffs. That's how the Canadiens started with Suzuki, who was 44% in his first season as a center as well. Now, to me, if you go out there and just present this tweet by itself in isolation, I'm going to call you nuts. What the hell are you doing, Chicago? You're trading away a 21-year-old guy who was taken 3rd overall because his face-off percentage is not great? Like, okay, let's go over on a hockey reference and take a look at Kirby Dach's overall face-off percentage. In 2019-20, his rookie season, he had 75 face-offs won and 147 face-offs lost. Good for 33.8% on the dot. In 2020-2021, in the limited sample he played, he had a 40.3% face-off percentage. That percentage then dipped back to 32.8 this previous season, where he was primarily played as a center for 70 games worth of playing time. He is at a current career 34.6% on the dot. And that's really bad. Like, I'm not going to go out there and say that the future is bleak for Kirby Dach, but boy oh boy, he's got some work to do. But as I said, he's 21 years old, right? So it's difficult to go out there and say for sure, okay, he's a 21-year-old that's getting 30-something% of the faceoffs, let's trade him away. Like, let's get that 13th overall pick, let's take Conor Geekie, who's not going to have to take faceoffs because he's not a center, and we'll just go along our way because we want a hard reset. We're so into this hard reset type of thing that we're going to trade DeBrincat away as well. Yeah, let's get rid of that guy. Complete waste of our time here. Now, I'm kind of satirically poking fun at the way the Chicago Blackhawks might have acknowledge the situation and the players on their team of the past, at least, but it is really interesting to me how this one statistic is the one that popped up as to the potential reason as to why the Blackhawks traded him away. Like, okay, you could very well say it's because he's not developing the way that we thought he should be. It's because we feel like he needs a change of scenery. It could do him well to get adjusted to a new system and just kind of reboot everything because he was a 3rd overall guy that we thought was good enough to be a potential number 1 center, but he hasn't really shown the signs of developing into that yet. Like, I could understand all of that, but just to isolate it and say, oh, it's because his face-offs suck. Like, that's kind of shallow in my opinion. Is it not? I mean, the Canadiens gave up a 13th overall pick that they acquired from the Romanov trade with the Islanders, so I guess it wasn't too shallow, but at the end of the day, Kirby Dach is supposed to be holding a whole bunch of value because of where he was taken in the draft and what he was supposed to be. He was taken above Bowen Byram. That guy won a Stanley Cup recently, and he looked really gosh darn good while doing it. He was taken above Moritz Seider, who was the Calder winner this most previous season and already the best defenseman on the Red Wings. He was taken above Trevor Zegras, who was looking like an absolute stud. He's the NHL cover athlete, for crying out loud. Dach was in a position where at some point you could say this guy was potentially worth more than all those other players. It's just his development has not gone the way that you probably wanted it to, and now you have a player that is getting traded for draft picks that are a lot lower than 3rd overall because, yeah, it's unfortunate to see how that went down. At the end of the day, though, all the stuff we had said about the Montreal Canadiens and Dach playing with the Habs still reigns true. Whether or not he goes out there and absolutely improves, he shows up to play, he gets 50-60 points, he actually breaks a point-per-game record that he has had in his career, who knows? But I totally would not be surprised if that's the case because the guy's only 21 years old. Like, he's turning 22 in January. He's going to be okay as time goes on. Now, the question is whether or not there's more ice time given to Dvorak or Monahan. Nick Suzuki's going to be the number 1 center, so we know he's going to be at the top of the totem pole there, but the rest of the Canadiens and their center core, that's going to be a question and answer for another day. And then there's the Pierre-Luc Dubois stuff as well, which we're not going to talk about anymore because we've kind of milked that topic already to the ground. Talk in the comments, though, all your thoughts about the idea of Kirby Dach being traded from Chicago to Montreal strictly because of face-offs. Like, the need to reset your roster, okay, we kind of acknowledged that already, but just the face-offs being isolated as the main contributing factor, that's pretty interesting to me. Let me know in the comments if it is to you as well. Talk in the comments all your thoughts. I hope you enjoyed this Juraj 99. And bye.